everyone. This is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I am with a beautiful individual who I'm so excited to be here, Heidi Bellerjeau. Am I saying it right?
You are saying it right.
I know her husband.
Yes, yes.
So I have to say this. It's such a gift to meet her. And I met her because I went to her spa, but I immediately said, you look so familiar. And I couldn't figure out, like, how do I know her? And I kept saying that till finally we started talking. And her husband, do you want to tell the story? How we, like, literally, I said, no, I know people's faces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy what a small world it is. And I laugh about our last name, and this will tie into how you know John. John is my hubby. But our last name, Bellerjeau, he tells a story of being in college where you guys knew each other.
Yeah.
We finally figured this out. And he met someone at a party, a girl, and she said, now, what's your name? And he said, John Bellerjeau. And she's like, John, Bill, or Joe? And I said, please tell me you didn't ask her out.
Yes. No.
But that's how he introduces himself now. So John, Bill, or Joe went to school with Christina.
Yes. And was in a fraternity.
It was in the
to,
fraternity that you were a little sister.
Yeah.
And we have so many mutual friends. So it was a beautiful connection. But it all started with that last name. And that was at a fraternity party. You might have been there, Christina.
I was at a lot of those parties. I could tell stories. I won't do that online right now. I won't make people listen to
you guys can.
My kids don't need to hear
I'll
that.
let you two catch up and share stories, and I'll just listen.
Actually, though, I was very involved. I told you, in like student government and because of Barbara Shervanian. And oh my gosh, I could have talked to you forever. And I want us to just spend time together without being on camera or different things like this. But I went to your spa, which was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about you today. And of course, you can always bring up your husband and your family because that's a part of you.
Absolutely.
So tell us what you're doing now and then how you got here.
Absolutely. So I own the Face Foundry. It's a facial bar in the Gulch. It's really bringing affordable and accessible facials to the area. And that's a passion of mine. I've been in the beauty industry for almost 40 years now. I was director of education for the Estee Lauder Companies. So that's a fancy word for I traveled a ton, which you understand.
I do. And then people are always like, oh, that's great. I'm like,
is
it?
I don't know. Yes, it's so glamorous.
It's not, though. I'm so glad you're saying this because I travel because I was just talking to Joy about this. I have a mission to help people, and I know you do too, but it's a lot of work.
Well, it's a labor of love.
It is a labor of love. I'm so glad. It looks glamorous. You know this. Like it looks glamorous to open a store, to open a facial spa. But it's a lot of work.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, John's and our LLC is Salt and Light. So our goal has always been to bring salt and light into the workplace, to bring salt and light into the beauty industry, which is so necessary because, as you know, in skincare and the smoke and mirrors of social media, we need a dose of reality. We need to know that people need that realism and they need the love and that their skin doesn't have to be perfect. And so we're able to bring salt and light into Nashville through the beauty industry, yet make it very affordable. That was one thing that I always loved. I love getting facials.
Yeah, I love getting facials.
I love getting facials. If we go to a spa, I'd rather get a facial than a massage, just because you get the massage, the relaxation, but then your skin's glowing too, and you feel like you've got a long-term result. But I don't love spending $250, $300 for a facial. So
well, I noticed that about your spa, and I'm like you. I love, like, if I can get a facial, for $150, I feel like I'm doing great and I feel great. Like it changes the way I feel. And I think my skin, I'm just going to tell you, even flying everywhere or being on camera, it makes a huge difference.
It definitely does. And that's confidence.
Yeah.
When we talk about salt and light, it's hard to be salt and light when you don't feel good.
Yeah.
We don't feel like you look good.
Yeah.
And you don't have that confidence. So to be able to help people with their skin, which I know you're passionate about as well, and to really empower people, that was our goal. With opening brick and mortar. I'd been in the online space in the beauty industry. I actually had a business with Rodan and Fields for 13 years. And
for 13 years.
13 years, yes.
I said it earlier, I bet you're great at it.
It was fun. It was fun. We we learned a lot. That was my favorite part of that whole journey, was the personal development and realizing that I wanted to own my own business.
Yeah.
And I wanted brick and mortar. I wanted a place where people could walk in and really to step outside of that virtual world. And the funny thing, Christina, that epiphany happened during COVID.
When you said that, I was wondering, because COVID shut down a lot of places. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't. I remember one day during COVID thinking, and it was probably 6 to 8 weeks into it, thinking, I want to just go get a facial.
Thank you.
And I want to, and like everything was closed. Do you know what I mean? And it hit me. And I kind of knew that because I had been WhatsApping with some doctors I worked with in China. So I knew things were going to be closed. Like they were even like, make sure you get hair dye because you're not going to be able to go to the salon and get your hair done. And so it was so interesting to me that it really, because they had already gone through, they were going through it in China, right? So it happened in the United States, and you couldn't do anything. You couldn't go anywhere. And I remember it hitting me that, oh my gosh, they're going to close stores everywhere. Probably some stores that I love. That I'm never going to be able to go back. So tell me about that. So it hit you.
Yeah, so the virtual world, it's funny you say about the hair color. Everybody's embracing their gray. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not doing that.
I mean, I think there's food coloring in the pantry. This is not happening.
Even though some people look great gray, I don't.
Yes, same. Yeah, absolutely the same. And I've tried. It's why I'm blonde, because that's easy. We're going to go on a whole other tangent, which is my brain. But it's really easy to color gray and go blonde.
It is. That's why I've gone lighter too, because I really have dark hair. But it's easier.
It's easier. So
it hit you that you.
Yeah, I was tired of the virtual. I was tired of shopping online. I said, it's the same. I want to go into a store. I want to experience every sense of the smell, the feel, the touch, of seeing people again, of connecting, of community. And that was our aha of, okay, we want to pivot out of owning a virtual social selling business into really the beauty world of connecting and touching people. And we're going to do that through affordable, because people were struggling financially. So we knew coming out of that, they wouldn't have a lot of disposable income to spend on these extras that were necessary, that do help our health and all aspects. So that's where the entire passion and concept was born.
That is wonderful. And you were doing a CEO panel, so you're going to speak in front of some pretty high-powered women, to be honest, and men.
No pressure.
I think it's going to be great, because then people will know more about what you're doing and your mission. And what I love about you and your husband is that you truly do this out of love, and you truly care. And I was going to say this. So when I met you, I said to Stephanie right away, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so nice. I really like her. It was before I figured out how I knew you. And then I figured out the connection, which was just kind of blew my mind. I think we started with Alabama.
I know. And then
I lived in Alabama for 12 years.
Yes.
And your accent, because I kept hearing your accent thinking, gosh, this accent's so familiar to me.
It's very deep in there. It will slip out. I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama.
I know.
So.
I lived there for 12 years. My best friend that I lived with for 7 years from college, Susan, we always said we would retire in either Mobile or Fairhope, because I lived in the Spring Hill area in Mobile, and then I lived over in Spanish Fort, right on the bay on the water.
Yeah.
And I still love it.
Yeah.
But I love Nashville more. I don't think I could move back, to be honest, anymore.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
We just moved full time to Nashville 2 years ago. So we worked remotely and opened the store remotely, but knew this was where we wanted to be. And that's actually an interesting story, Christina, that I don't even think I've shared with you.
You haven't. I wondered why you were. Yeah.
Yeah. So John is a dentist, and he had 3 dental practices
and
down
his partner
in South
went to
Alabama.
college with
Scott McRae went to college with you. He sure did. And
do you know, I met someone yesterday that actually they had a friend that went to college with me, which is
it's so crazy.
I know.
Anyhow, I mean, in all the schools.
But I remember Scott McRae too. I kind of remember even them being dentists, because at one of the Mardi Gras balls, I don't even need to talk about me. I don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not going to say this because this will sound bad, but I went to one, you know how we had all the Mardi Gras
Oh
balls?
yes, Father Doral.
And
Did you know Father
remember?
Doral? He
Yeah.
would host all the parties.
Yes,
right
absolutely, I know.
downtown. So
Yeah.
you, I'm sure, would have been there.
Well, we were, my husband back then we were members of the Athelstan Club.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
and I was in a Mardi Gras society, but in college, I just wanted to go to as many as I could.
All the beads.
So I think one year I went to like 11.
Yeah,
So
you did it right.
But one of the guys was a dentist.
Okay.
And I think your husband probably knows him.
It's either.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been Scott or John.
No,
They would have
it
been
wasn't
right
them.
there.
It wasn't. No,
Is there a story?
Yeah. Well, he took my gloves off with his teeth.
Oh wow!
And I was like, this is a little different.
I mean, he's
so
a
I never wanted
dentist.
to wear. I know.
He's just,
It was not your husband. It was not Scott. No, I know them. Yeah, no. They were a little older than me in school.
Yes.
I want to point that out for everyone.
They're a little older than me. May we both point
Can
that
we
out?
both point it out?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because they were like alum
Yeah.
of the fraternity.
Yes.
And Randy Honeycutt was the president
Yes.
when I stepped in. I actually dated him.
Okay. Yes.
He's
I
no
know
longer
Randy.
with women, but
Oh. Well, Randy. So he wasn't the one with the gloves either.
he's a great guy.
Yes.
Yeah, great guy.
No, he is.
Yeah, and then Brett Campbell, I think, who's the godfather of two of my children.
Oh, wow.
Was the vice president. His dad was the advisor. Your husband would know that.
Yes,
yeah.
he would.
Mr. Campbell. Yeah, he was an attorney and a judge. But anyway, I think it's so interesting. So tell me how you came here from Mobile.
So
Yeah.
John had his practices, and then he suffered a detached retina right before COVID.
Really?
Yes. Had it reattached, but it never healed properly. So we use humor to diffuse a lot of situations, and we would say,
can see
nobody really wants a one-eyed dentist with no depth perception. So we knew it was probably time to pivot there as well. No, we were extremely grateful for Rodana Fields at that time because
sure,
that
yeah.
had replaced our incomes, and we were able to pivot and
I know people are
and be
upset with
okay.
them, but I always look at life like they provided for
goodness.
they provided a foundation for an economy for so many families for so many
and
years.
for a good many years, a lot longer
did.
than 15 years. So
On the flip side, you guys worked so hard, so I'm going to give credit to both sides.
Yes.
I know with our company, we're an affiliate, we're not an MLM, but we have a different philosophy. I was explaining to you that people could be in 5 different companies
Yep.
with us because of me, because of my personality. I don't like being controlled, and I don't like being owned. And
But I think that's an abundance mentality too, a prosperity mentality as opposed to a scarcity
Yeah.
mentality. And so many people struggle with that in our world. And
explain that to me, because that's one of my prayers that I pray every day is I bless the people around me, like in the company. I bless my kids abundantly, right? Expand our boundaries of territories, and my husband and myself, and I have such confidence in that. As long as I'm using it for the will of God,
Absolutely.
and for the love and the mission of people, I
Absolutely.
have confidence. The minute I don't do that, I don't have confidence in myself because I'm doing it for something that's
Right.
alternative. So explain to me what you mean when you say abundance. Because I do think I have an abundance mentality, and I don't think that my mentality is for me to own everything.
Right.
I think my mentality is people should have abundance and love and life, and should. If I'm going to do well, then everyone should be doing well around me, or else I'm not doing my job, right? And they should be able to eat what they want, to use what skincare they want.
Sure.
If they go to your spa, I hope they get an option with some of ours, but I hope they get to do whatever they want.
Right.
Because it's just how life should be. You shouldn't control people.
Agreed. To me, that's the definition of a true leader. It's a servant leader. It's wanting the abundance for whom
Everyone.
you're leading.
'Cause you truly care.
Because you care about them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because if you
It's
think
value
about
and
it, if you don't
integrity.
care,
Yeah.
you just want it for yourself.
It's money.
It's money.
It becomes money, and it becomes wanting to get that recognition for yourself rather than who are we truly working for.
Right.
So-
I have to be, we all have egos. We all have narcissism. I say this all the
Sure.
time because I feel like if I don't humble myself, God's going to humble me. And he has many times.
Oh, yes, and he's good
humbled
at
me
it.
so many
He's
times.
really good at that.
He's very good at that. So I have to catch myself all the time. And if I ever catch it, then I give more. because I know that that's God telling me, Christina, you're not focusing on what's right.
Which
I love that you brought that up, though.
Well, and I love too that what you just said, because it also, I love being humbled. I really do, because it makes me realize I'm not in control and I'm not the one that's having to earn and achieve all this. Really, when I finally relax and let him do what he's really good at, and I just step into the will and lead with a servant heart, we can do so much more, and I'm not exhausted.
Yeah, it gives you energy.
Releases that pressure.
Right, it does release the pressure, because we all get tired, right? I say this all the time. It's not one person. I don't care if you stay home or if you're working. We all get tired. Like, I think of my mother, who I never saw sit down, and I still don't, and she's 82, because she just is serving, right? She's serving people constantly. And I, another prayer I always have is, and I have never talked about this, but I always pray that God will put me in that person's shoes.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
when I
that's
start
good.
getting upset with someone, I pray, and then I visualize what that person must be feeling. And of course I cry.
Yeah.
Because if you really ask God to show you something, I didn't plan on talking about this today, but if you really ask God to show you something, He shows it in your heart, so you feel
it's
it,
heart change.
and that humbles you, right? Because
Yeah.
you're lucky in a lot of ways, and I'm blessed and lucky in a lot of ways. We're both blessed, but I was just talking about this morning. Not everyone is, because we have a friend that has a foundation. So when I was at Mobile, they had an experimental program with the governor of Alabama, and actually I ended up at South Alabama because Bill and Rusty Glover, my best friend, and I dated them, and Governor Glover was the governor at one point in Alabama. But anyway, they had a program and I was selected that I worked in. Do you remember Pritchard?
Of course.
But you know Pritchard. Listen, Pritchard is one of the
You're
worst
talking about
gang
the schools.
But Pritchard, Alabama, where it's 99.9% black, and it has one of the worst gang activities, top 5. Used to be. I don't know if it still is.
It
in the
might
United
be
States.
top 3
So
now.
I worked in there for 4 years. So the governor appointed people to go in and work, and actually my mom cut off money for a while because I had a trust fund to help me pay for college. Which wasn't a lot of money, but it helped with college. And they cut it off because they didn't want me working there. But it really touched my heart how life was so different there. And I took the job for that reason. I thought, I was raised in such a protective environment. I needed God to show me. And I took it after a lot of prayer. And I lasted longer in that program. And I found out later it was a joke. They thought I was the only white, female, and they thought I would last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say a week.
No, I lasted, in fact, Clayton, my dad told Clayton last time he was in Dexter the story of me going in one time and a guy held a knife to he spit in my face first, and he held a knife to my neck. But he ended up walking out with me. I ended up talking to him and talking him down, because these people had gone through so much, and their only hope was I didn't want them to go to jail. You know, I mean, it was a huge thing for me, and I have a lot of stories. I don't want to get into that, but Mobile really changed me, because that was one of the reasons. Here I was, fraternity sororities like you, like we're doing all these fun things, and then I took a job with sexually abused kids at night, and then I took that probation job, because in my heart I thought, how am I going to learn what other people have gone through unless I actually get to know them? And it really impacted me as a person. It humbled me. Do you know what I mean? It humbled me. The fear humbled me. And then it humbled me to think that there were people out there that were going to jail that never had a father or mother.
I know.
That just, Mobile is not a wealthy city, actually. People
Yeah.
think that.
Yeah.
It has a
lot of
Savannah.
$100,000 millionaires is what we always say.
What do they say?
A lot of $100,000 millionaires.
That's so true. Because I have to tell you this. I was working so I moved back, and I was working for J&J Jansen.
Yeah.
And son Duquesne went to St. Paul's. So you know how they had.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you go to school?
Rights.
Yeah.
All girls.
All girls school.
13 years.
Because you had the all boys school.
UMS.
And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want Duquesne to go to an all boys school. I couldn't make up my mind.
They merged now.
They did.
They did. Yes, I was the last year of the graduating
Right,
all
and,
girls. UMS right now.
Yeah.
So
Those are great schools, though. They really
they
were.
are.
But I remember we bought a house in the nicest area,
Spring Hill.
Spring Hill, at Burger Street, 46 Burger
Yeah.
Street, at
Yeah.
the end of the street.
Yeah.
And I wasn't wealthy, but I was wealthy there. So
Yeah.
I was like,
A lot of
wait a minute.
$100,000 millionaires.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
That's so true.
Isn't it?
It is, but it's a
know.
great place to live.
It is. No,
Yeah.
it was a great place to grow up, honestly. It really was.
So I took you off the story, and that's my
No,
fault. I
it's
started
good.
talking about.
But let me go right back to Pritchard. You may not realize Dr. Ben Carson started a school in Pritchard.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you might
I
want
did
to
not
dig
know
in.
that.
Yes.
I would love to interview him.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
I would love to actually go back and interview the director that hired me from Youth Services to work there for 4 years.
We should head back to Mobile and do a day of podcast.
We should do the podcast together. I would love to do
Wouldn't
that.
that be fun?
Yeah, we need to
guarantee you Ben and Candy Carson would be a part of that.
You know who else we need to interview? We need to go to Fairhope. Because people don't know this, but fried green tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And all of those authors.
Winston Groom.
Yeah.
Winston Groom, Forrest Gump.
Joy's an artist, and her family's an artist.
Yeah.
She would love Fairhope.
Oh, goodness, yes.
The Grand Hotel.
It was an artist colony.
It's an artist colony. So back in the South, this is where all the artists went.
Yes.
And it's
was a
it's
tax-free artist colony was how it was founded. And it still is.
One of my favorite hotels in the world is the Grand Hotel.
Yeah, the Grand Hotel. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So you guys ended up leaving that beauty to come here.
We did. We absolutely did. So I grew up in Mobile. I say that I escaped after college.
You went to Alabama.
No,
right?
I went to Auburn. Yeah, went to Auburn.
Talk about a war, by
I
the way.
know.
I had I did internships at both places because of my graduate program, and you talk about a rival.
It is and we laugh now that we've moved to Tennessee and the Vols and Rocky Top and all the things.
I want to tell you something. I told myself I would never let any of my kids go to the University of Tennessee. I swear to you. I thought if any of my kids go to that school and I'm not wearing orange. And so I got to tell you,
I don't look good in orange. I don't look good in orange.
So I have to tell you, so Duquesne, my oldest went there, and then my second son went there, Preston. But when Duquesne went there, I was at TJ Maxx, and I saw an orange Fendi scarf.
That was it?
I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I did the lipstick.
It was like March 75% off, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yes.
I'll do the lipstick. Yeah.
I remember with Estee Lauder, we had an orange lipstick that we sold out of in the
You
Tennessee.
worked at Estee Lauder.
I did,
too.
yes. I was
What
director
did
of
you-
education.
That's
for
where
them.
you were the director. You worked at another.
Well, it was the prescriptives division of
Okay.
Estee Lauder.
That was my favorite division. Yeah.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
because we could talk about this forever. They were doing peptides and glycation.
And I just did peptide. That's where I first. So if people understand that brand,
You see us all get excited now.
Oh yeah,
we're talking glycation and melanocytes.
I just did videos all day yesterday about peptides, and I started thinking, gosh, I've worked with peptides for so long. I've got to go back. How do I explain this? Because when people, and I even said in the video, I've worked on this product for 2 years, but actually a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember when peptides were introduced. So when I worked at Biogen, so that was in, I was at Biogen when Mary and Kreider were born. So I was there 2002.
This was yes. I was going to say this was
2002.
around 2000 when Jules Sakino
Right.
Dr. Jules Sakino was working with peptides for Estee Lauder.
Right. So that was a huge topic, right?
Yeah.
So we entered into that as scientists and started really working with all the derms and plastic surgeons and experimenting on how we could actually use peptides for rare diseases. So we were looking at scleroderma and sarcoidosis, all these different things.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting. And then when I realized, well, this can make me look better, I was like, wow, I like this a lot. Yeah.
I mean, one of the easiest ways that we explained peptides, because it was so new and,
it was
people
really new back then.
didn't understand, was that it's a remote control for your skin. So you put the peptides on the epidermis, they signal the collagen elastin production in the dermis, and it's like they're hitting the volume button
We need to have her do a video.
on that remote control.
I did it yesterday. I was trying to figure out how to explain it, and I started talking about building blocks like
Yes,
Legos.
Legos.
I go, my kids
Yes.
use Legos. I go,
Yep.
if you really want to build but I said scaffold, and then I thought people maybe don't know what I mean. But yeah,
Well, we're visualizing it, and
Yeah.
and that came to me one night with the remote control.
like it. I like it a
because
lot.
You're
Yeah.
literally, I mean, you can just picture. Although do we really use remote controls anymore? It's more like, I mean, my kids tease me when I use Apple Pay, and they say, "Mom, it's not a remote control," because I'm trying to figure out where to.
okay.
put
I'm not
my,
a very tech person, but I still use a remote control. I don't know.
What have we talked about? 4 minutes.
It's Joy and Marty and Stephanie. They're like the taskmaster. I'm not finished. Wait a minute. We're talking about college when we were younger. Like, we remember when we were younger. We liked that time of our lives.
It was fun.
Anyway, so finish your story about your husband. So
Okay, so detached retina, sold the practices.
did Scott move here too?
No, he retired though very shortly after they
Why?
sold the practices.
Okay, 'cause
Scott is
What's he
into
doing?
woodworking. He is building furniture.
Really?
Yes, and selling it at antique shops
Does he
all
love
over
it?
Mobile. Absolutely loves it. Travels all over to work under
I need to buy something
woodworkers.
from him.
Beautiful.
I mean that.
Really, he's
So I'll get the
very
information
gifted.
from you. We'll buy
Yes,
something.
Yes,
Yeah,
really beautiful. Very gifted. So working,
Wow.
I know. So all.
But is your
major
husband
pivots.
practicing here?
He is volunteering at Interfaith Dental.
Okay.
So he still, keeps his hands in it and does. I mean, drilling, billing, and filling. He was tired of it.
I've heard it's
Yeah.
hard.
It's hard.
Because
It's hard.
dentists
It's
suffer
exhausting.
from a lot. Well, he needs to be on clean slate because dentists touch all the metal in people's teeth. So I made clean slate to really get rid of the heavy metals in the body.
Okay.
And to clean out because that impacts your neurotransmission and it impacts your overall body. I actually worked on that formula when I was working on a patent for reversal of aging.
Okay.
And basically anti-aging, reversal of aging, and regeneration of the skin, hair, and nails. So to really regenerate, like peptides are your building blocks, or like you said, the remote control. But if you don't clean the inside and the outside of your body, honestly, you can't really regenerate. So that's something that it's scientifically, we understand it, right? But I can't make claims with clean slate. I have to be careful because it's a nutraceutical. But I actually, when I did the patents, I wrote pharmaceutical and biotech as well. We just haven't gone into that development yet because I was trying to get rid of nuclear waste in people in case of a war or in case of major exposure. That was one of the reasons I worked on it as well.
Okay, so I just tied in your remote control with clean slate. If the remote control's dirty or there's a film on it, it
It won't
doesn't
work.
work.
I think she came in to help us with marketing.
I love marketing.
You're great at it.
It's just years. It's wisdom. Years and experience. Just wisdom.
And you educated people all over the world. Why are we not collaborating and working with her?
Let's do it. We are.
Let's do
It
it.
just started right here.
You're really great telling people
It's
about
fun.
it.
I'm good
We
at
actually need
simplifying
someone to
things.
help educate about the skincare line because right now I would say, you know how you look at your strengths and weaknesses in a company, and you know this. One person, like the only reason this company is successful is because of all the people that are so great.
Absolutely.
That are in this
Working
company.
in their strengths.
You know that. It's not a one-person thing.
Never.
And if you think that, you're going to be really disappointed.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's not.
And really tired.
But and really tired. And you got to have people educating. Because and you have to have people educating that know about that particular topic. And as a scientist, and I've said this a lot, I throw myself into a project and learn as much as possible. But that doesn't mean there's not another expert that knows more than me or knows something different than me. And I would say that's one of our biggest weaknesses that I want to develop more is the educational platform.
People are smart. They're savvy.
Yeah.
They do their research.
So you need people that know that can continue to educate. I'm sure you know this. I don't know what happens at your practice, and I know I have to wrap up, but I get corrected all the time, right? Even by people I would say that aren't scientists that will correct me on a topic. So I'm always looking up things.
Sure.
But having a group of people around me that are experts in that area, and it's not about my education, because I have to say this, you know this, you go to school, you're educated on that topic, you don't know
Textbook.
everything
No.
about it. You have to keep digging into
Right.
it, and I think the true people that are your leaders in education are not the people that are currently, I need to be careful how I say this, they're not the people necessarily that went to school the longest.
Right. No.
They're the people that stay, like I think my husband's one of the smartest scientists in the world, and they stay abreast and they read everything they
Continuing
can get their hands
education. I listen to podcasts, read books.
Yeah.
You've got to stay immersed. John always said that he would mentor guys and girls coming out of dental school, and he loved it because they'd be so proud that they've just gotten this degree and done their residency. But he's like, they're so green. They're so green. You can only learn so much out of a textbook and so much in the lab. You've got to get out in the real world and immerse yourself in it. And surround yourself with others who can teach you things.
I love the fact that he's volunteering at Interfaith. That's so great. That says a lot about him.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable guy. Unbelievable.
Well, how many years have you been married?
It'll be 25 next May, so we just celebrated 24. Now, that's an interesting story that we always say could be a Lifetime movie, because we were engaged, broke off. I was the runaway bride.
Were
Broke
you?
off the engagement the night before we mailed the invitations.
What?
Like 12 bridesmaids.
Why did you do that?
I wanted to get out of Mobile, and I knew if we got married, he's 8 years older. He was starting that dental practice. I would be there for the rest of my life. And I handed the ring back and I left. And that's when I went to work for Estee Lauder in New York and did my thing. We didn't see each other for 10 years.
Oh my goodness. That story. How did you reconnect?
So went home for Thanksgiving to Mobile. My mom basically disowned me over this. I mean, Mom was pretty
I'm sure
excited.
in Mobile, Alabama.
In Mobile, Alabama.
That's a big deal.
My daughter was marrying the new dentist in town.
Oh, yeah, which is a big deal.
And my parents lived in Spring Hill. And
So people don't know this. Like in Mobile, if you married a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, you were pretty important. I mean, I'm being honest.
And we'd had the showers. I mean, we had gifts.
Well, and
the
I got to
gifts
tell you,
were on the
Mobile
dining room
Mobile
table.
knows how to throw a party. Best city to go to a party.
Oh,
in.
absolutely. Yes. I mean,
It lasts for a week, a party.
Yes. And the old Southern tradition of displaying the gifts on the dining room table.
Oh, yeah.
They were all set out.
I've been to a million weddings there because I was in a sorority there. So I went back for so many years to weddings. And they're some of the best weddings in the world.
Oh, at the
Yeah.
Bragg Mitchell Mansion.
Oh,
Yes,
beautiful,
beautiful.
yeah.
So
So you called it off.
Yes, the night before we mailed the invitation. So everyone has dresses. We'd had parties, we'd had showers, all the things. And so 10 years later, I go home at Thanksgiving and had broken a tooth. And my mom said, well, you can call John. I'm like, well, that's weird, but I don't really know what else I'm going to do. And obviously you have his number. She had been inviting
Were you
him
not
over
nervous
for Christmas.
about that?
No, I was so...
But at that point, you were kind of over that.
Yeah, it was, it's
Was
like,
he devastated when
whatever.
you called that off?
He was. And he dated. And later I met some of the girls he dated, and they're like, we knew he was never over you. He couldn't commit. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's just
Did
he's
you
just
ever?
a sweet old
Did you?
soul.
Did you miss him the whole time?
I was living my best life.
Yeah.
That I thought was my best life
Yeah.
at that point. Was traveling, immersed in work, was caught up in that rat race.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I really missed anybody, to
Yeah.
be honest.
You're too busy.
I was too busy. I was in a whole other headspace.
And how old were you? You were
So that was in my 20s. I was I was 29 when we met again.
okay.
Very young to get married.
Yeah.
He's 8 years older. So
Well, yeah, because you were
different.
really young to get married. Yeah. Were
So-
you finished with college when you guys got engaged?
I was just graduating.
Okay.
So, and again, he's in a whole other different space of life, having
Yeah.
gone through dental school, residency at Yale,
Yeah.
back in Mobile, setting up practices. So he was in a completely different life journey than I'd even stepped into.
Yeah.
We of course know now it was God's divine plan, and completely our hands were not on it, which is a good thing, because we
Yeah.
would have totally screwed it up.
Yeah.
But came home, broke a tooth, called him, and he's like, absolutely, I'll see you. So we show up on a Saturday, office is closed. He's as kind and sweet as he's always been, puts the temporary on, has the toy chest for the kids. He's like, you were good, pick out a toy. I picked out a little emerald plastic ring. He's like, yeah, I'll never give you another one of those, so enjoy. I still have that ring. That ring is
You
still
still
in my
have it?
jewelry box. It is.
And did you go out with him right after that?
Right. Well, we exchanged numbers. Neither of us were dating anyone. He said, if you come home for Christmas, let's go out to eat. We went, had brunch down at the bakery on Dauphin
Yeah,
Street.
I know exactly where it is,
Ended up heading over to, was it Mullet Point, or I can't think of the name of it, but it was over at Point Clear, where everybody went on Sunday
Yeah.
afternoons to hear bands.
Yeah.
Went over, spent
Not-
the rest
not Jimmy
of the
Buffett's
day.
place.
Not Jimmy Buffett's. That was Judge Roy
Lily's
Beans.
or Lulu's. No.
Not Lulu's. She actually opened at Gulf Shores now. Look, we're going to,
Okay.
here goes the other
Sorry.
tangent. Sorry. Here we go.
I love Lulu's.
I love
Best
Lulu's.
brunch.
She's so
and
sweet,
I love
too.
Jimmy Buffett's place. I was there a lot.
Yes.
Stacey Earls was there a lot.
Oh,
Your
of
husband
course.
was
That
there.
was a Sunday afternoon. Well, you're saying that
Sunday
because
afternoon, 'cause we didn't
that's
have
where
to
we
go-
went. The goats. And
We didn't have to go to school
Right.
on Monday morning. So
We
people
were
don't
always
know
at
this, but at
Judges.
South Alabama, you really only went to school like 3 days.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, because you wanted Friday and Mondays off to just do
Your
what you
long
wanted.
weekend, yeah, and go to Judges on Sunday. So Judges was closed at the time.
They had
it was
chickens and
Pelican
eggs
Point. That's what it
and-
was called, Pelican Point.
Pelican Point. I love Pelican
Okay,
Point.
we
They
went
have the best Bloody Marys.
Yes, they do.
They do.
So we went to
And
Pelican Point.
bushwhackers. Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
So
So,
we'll do another
long
podcast,
story
but
short,
we have committed to going to Fairhope and Mobile
Okay,
together.
I'm ready.
And I mean, I'm
dad
going to
would be
love.
very happy.
Yeah. We'll bring in different people. We can bring in maybe some of our sorority sisters and stuff. You were an AOPI, right?
No, I was an AD Pi
AD Pi.
at Auburn.
Yeah.
And so, but all my friends were AOPI, so they called me an ADO
That's
Pi.
why we had, because I came in from Kentucky as an Alpha Gamma Delta, but that wasn't my sorority there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's
Oh,
why I
yeah.
got into Panhellenic and Barbara Cervini and all that
yes.
stuff. But
we should have Barbara on.
oh,
Barbara and
we should
Lee.
have, we should have Lee. Because he's famous
He is
there.
famous.
He's
yes.
the voice
He was
of,
the voice of the Jaguars
Yeah.
of South Alabama.
we'll have to do it.
That'd be fun.
And she was, at one point, she was the administrative assistant
to the president.
for the president. So
President Whitten.
she was one of my closest friends.
She's the kindest, sweetest.
I was trying to think of how much older she was than me, but I was like, she was one of my best
She's
friends.
20 years. She's in her 70s
Yeah.
and
I had-
gorgeous.
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 We'll
the
have to have them on.
quintessential Southern woman. Just so polished and poised and
I mean,
beautiful.
we can get the president of South Alabama
Yes, we can.
and Spring Hill. I worked at Spring Hill College too. So anyway, we'll try to do
President's
that. Okay.
Joe Bonner now, right? Who was congressman.
Yeah, I
Isn't
think
that
so.
right? He was
Yeah.
an Alabama congressman.
Dean Adams became
Yes.
president.
Yep.
So Dean Adams was the reason, I think I've told some of my friends this, I got into so many organizations because he threatened me. You know, I either had to do community service because
This will be a good
there's
story.
alcohol involved. That's all I'm going to say. I either had to do community service in South Alabama or he made me run for president for all those organizations. So I had no options, and he made me work at the president's office and the dean's office. He said he saw something in me.
But you know what? That's redemption right there. Taking
that's what
something good.
Do you see what I mean?
Or something not so good into
Someone
good.
that had failed and had done something that was against the rules. He turned it around and made a huge difference in my life.
Restoration, redemption.
That's right. And
It's
that's what we all
beautiful.
need to remember in life
Yeah.
before you judge.
Oh, big time.
Big time. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.